Hi, I'm John Quigley, President and CEO of the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry. In these challenging economic times, it's imperative that our residents and businesses band together to not only shop Elmhurst, but buy Elmhurst whenever possible. We have great stores in our city center, Spring Road, Butterfield Road, York and Villette Streets, St. Charles and Route 83, North Avenue and Lake Street, along North York and even Grand Avenue. I ask for your help. Let's keep our tax dollars in Elmhurst.
Visit elmhurst.org to explore the new City of Elmhurst website. Find out the latest Elmhurst news, pay utility bills and parking tickets, report concerns, and much more. Elmhurst.org is an ideal way to discover what Elmhurst offers your business, your family, your life.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Julie Miller-Sheehan, and I am delighted to be your Master of Ceremonies this evening. On behalf of the Elmhurst Jaycees, welcome to the 61st Distinguished Service Award Banquet. We are pleased to have you celebrate with us as we honor our recipient for his outstanding service to the Elmhurst community. As you all know, we are here to honor a great man, revered by many, well-respected in his profession, supported and admired by the community, and, of course, a close friend of mine. But enough about Thomas Myers. Let's talk about John Quigley, our 2012 DSA recipient, for a moment. He's a nice friend, one that knows you and your stories well. And if you don't have one of those friends, I believe John will be looking for some after all that we say about him tonight. Much, much, much more on John will follow in our program later tonight. First, we will begin with the delicious meal that has been prepared for you by the fine kitchen and staff of Diplomat West Banquet Hall. And to begin that meal, would you please welcome to the stage Ann Quigley, wife of recipient John Quigley, to give our invocation.
Thank you. It's true. I am Mrs. John Quigley. The third. You know, I'm not sure if this will have made the list of John's service to the community, but I heard that he founded a local self-help group for serial monogamists. And he wonders why I insisted on a wedding video. It was only in the middle of our wedding ceremony that I figured out why John had gotten married so often. It took him 3 tries to find a way to work "Luke, I am your father" into the wedding vows. Yes, he did. But I digress. You know, I wanted to make this invocation as special as possible for John. So I paid a visit to Immaculate Conception High School, his alma mater, and asked the nuns for a special blessing I could include. While none of them were old enough to remember all the way back to John's school years, there was one elderly sister who'd heard the stories. She took me aside, handed me this, and muttered something about the devil taking many forms. So, having failed to find inspiration at IC, I thought maybe I should use the prayer that John says all the time at home. Serenity now! No, that didn't seem quite right either. So here's what you're getting. Let us pray. Divine Spirit, grace us this evening with your light. Fill our minds with wit. Fill our voices with praise and cheer. Fill our hearts with love and fellowship, and fill our bellies with the joy of laughter. We thank you for this earth, for the time we are given on it, and for this wonderful company of friends, family, and this very special evening. Amen.
Thank you, everyone, again for attending tonight's Distinguished Service Award banquet. I would like to recognize a dignitary in our midst, the Jaycees' own Emerald Queen of Elmhurst, Cheryl Moore. She is the Jaycees' second Emerald Queen of Elmhurst, and she's done a fantastic job so far. I would also like to thank Ken Bartels for the lovely centerpieces that he has provided. And if you know John Quigley at all, you know it is a staple of his diet. And it reminds me of this Diet Coke commercial. 3 Diet Cokes equals a 3-hour meeting. Well, if you go to a meeting with John Quigley, it'll last 3 minutes. So I would also like to thank Diplomat West for their fantastic meal, and especially for providing us with the peach melba, one of John's favorite desserts here.
Julie, did you like your dinner?
Yes, I did. The chicken was delicious.
Yes, I remember. I had the lasagna.
Well, thank you for joining me on stage, Cher. Are you nervous?
Yes.
First time?
No, I've been nervous lots of times.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Well, it was certainly difficult to plan this year's DSA banquet since the recipient asked for a roast. It's an entirely different kind of banquet altogether. It's an entirely different kind of banquet. Thank you for that. Okay, well, next, I would like to recognize Elmhurst Memorial Hospital.
A hospital? What is it?
It's a big building with patients, but that's not important right now. What is important is that the Elmhurst Memorial Hospital has graciously donated $250 to the Elmhurst Jaycees in lieu of their presence tonight because they did have their own event. John, Elmhurst Memorial Hospital thanks you very much for your support. Please go ahead. And thank you, Diane McGinnis, for being the only person here representing Elmhurst Memorial Hospital.
For that, they could have paid $500. Hey, don't roast yourself.
The Jaycees also thank John for his support of their organization because they gave the money to us. Apparently, they knew you would spend it on something stupid like baseball or softball or bowling or something. I would also like to give a special thank you to the Kiwanis Club of Elmhurst for graciously donating the flowers that are at the front of the stage. And if anyone would like to take a potted plant on their way out, please feel free to do so. So thank you, Kiwanis Club of Elmhurst. And next, I would like to introduce someone who shares a sentiment for John Quigley, just like us, Pete DeCiani, Mayor of Elmhurst. Please welcome him.
Thank you, Julie. It's great to be here tonight for our annual DSA. And, you know, this is an award that is one of the highest honors you can receive in this great city. Many of the DSA recipients are here, and we're going to recognize those folks a little later. But today we're honoring a gentleman who's done so much. You talk about a guy that exemplifies what Elmhurst is. I don't think we find anybody better. Grade school at IC, high school at IC, Elmhurst College, our mutual alma mater, President and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, has done a great job for this community. He's always there when there's a hand to be, given, whether it's auctioning at various events, and he's been my auctioneer at EOKT many times, and I'm sure if all of us had nonprofit events, John Quigley's always there to step up and help out. And on behalf of the city of Elmhurst, I can't think of a better guy to receive this award. So, John, God bless you, buddy. I would like to recognize some of the folks from the city of Elmhurst who are here tonight. We, first of all, have our previous mayor, Mayor Tom Marcucci. Tom, great man. 16 years at the helm, did a great job. In fact, when I was 42 and elected mayor, I had 20/20 vision, and now I have the Marcucci specs that come along with the job after going into my 4th year in office here. So, also Alderman Scott Levin is here today. Scott? Doing a great job as well. Former city treasurer, Charity Algram, is here as well. Charity? And I have the funnest thing I like to do, and that's proclaim to good people like John Quigley. So with that, I'd ask Mr. Quigley to come up for this proclamation. And it is small print, so there's a lot on here, so. Do it, John.
Thank you.
Absolutely. A lot of baseball. No, I'm kidding. Whereas Mr. John R. Quigley has celebrated years of affiliations with the city of Elmhurst, with the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce. Whereas John was born, raised, and educated in Elmhurst and holds nearly 25 years of leadership positions. Whereas John has enjoyed a National Newspaper Association award-winning career in journalism before serving in the Associate Director of Public Relations for his alma mater, and my alma mater too, Elmhurst College. Whereas he has always exhibited an irrefutable love for community service, serving as president and CEO of the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry, is on the board of directors for the ECCI, presided over the Green Coat Ambassadors, chaired all of the major fundraising committees of the organization, co-chaired the Elmhurst Memorial Day Parade, and is a member of the Elmhurst St. Patrick's Day Committee. Whereas John is a member of the Elmhurst Economic Development Commission, Elmhurst City Center Board of Directors, Elmhurst Visitor and Tourism and Board, Central Business District, the Retail Grant Committee, is a Blue Jay backer of Elmhurst College, is a Quanian, is a member of the Rotary Club, ECAF, PEP, and is a volunteer with the Elmhurst YMCA. Whereas John has the ability to empower and inspire others to put forth their best efforts in all that they do, and all his contribution of time and energy. And now, therefore, I, Peter P. DeCiani III, Mayor of the greatest city of the world, Elmhurst, Illinois, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, May 23rd, 2012, as John R. Quigley Day in the city of Elmhurst, and acknowledge his years of dedication and service to the community, and for being honored with the 61st Jaycees Distinguished Service Award. God bless you, buddy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, if he's going to take off his let me take off mine. Yeah. Oh, look at that. You was getting 20 years ago. This is only good for like 4 more hours.
So first, John gets the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce Day provided by the city, and now he gets his own day. We're never going to hear the end of it. Thanks, Pete. Well, Cher, thank you again for helping me with the DSA banquet tonight. As Queen, I know that you have been upstage. As Queen, I know that you are used to being on stage, and I am no slouch myself.
Don't sell yourself short, Julie. You're a tremendous slouch.
Well, I just really want everyone, including our recipient, to be pleased, and I yearn especially to be a great MC.
Don't be obsessed with your desires, Julie. The Zen philosopher Basho once wrote, "A flute with no holes is no flute. A donut with no hole is a Danish." He was a funny guy.
That's lovely advice, Cher. But truly, tonight I must be the best DSA banquet MC.
Well, Julie, what did you do to ensure you were the best MC in the past?
Oh, Cher, I don't keep score.
Then how do you measure yourself up to previous years?
By height. Next, I would like to introduce a close friend and past chairman of the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry and Alderman, Scott Levin.
You the man!
Well, thank you, Mayor. That was a good introduction for Mr. Quigley. I actually ran into former Alderman Mike Regan at the Annie Ryan race last Sunday, and he said, you know, Mayor DeCiani's running this race. In fact, he said he's the first mayor that has ever run this event. And we remarked, there's not a race that Mayor DeCiani doesn't want to run in. I'm sorry. I read my notes wrong. They told me to come to the Diplomat, and there's some half Irish, half Italian guy who went to grade school, high school, and Elmhurst College, and I'm supposed to roast him. My mistake. My mistake. Wrong guy. So Mayor Marcucci, different half Irish, half whatever. All right. Anyway, I know I'm here to honor the leadership and all the accomplishments of John Quigley, and I don't take it lightly. I thought long and hard about it. John, I got nothing. I had to show up tonight, but I got nothing. You're supposed to have a theme for a speech, and I have 5 words for you, John, but I'm not going to tell you what they are. I'm going to save them for the end, sort of developed in my speech. I'll sort of touch on them, but the words are not shy, bashful, modest, reclusive, or demure. Those are not the words you're going to hear at the end of the presentation. Now, the mayor gave a proclamation in your honor, which is pretty nice, but I want to tell you that we've stepped it up a notch, and we've arranged for the street behind the police department to be named after you. Nothing quite as obvious as Quigley Street, but it's called Commerce Street. And it's up right now, and I hope you'll all go visit. And John, every time you come out the back door of Fitz's Lanes or you're posting bond at the police department, Commerce, your street, because when we talk about commerce in Elmhurst, Mr. Chamber of Commerce, John Quigley, we think of you. And that's where I met John Quigley first. This was this guy, this very talkative, red-haired guy, and he's still half of that. He's a very funny guy that engages everyone he meets, and that's how he gets things done around here. And the Chamber's what he's best known for, and I'll say for this one serious note that we have the best Chamber of Commerce in the state of Illinois because of John Quigley. Now, I called my own high school buddy, Ed Walsh, and I said, you know, he knows every joke and humorous story there is. I said, get me a few Chamber of Commerce jokes, because it's a chamber president. And he searched long and hard, and he found it. There's only one. I guess Chamber of Commerce people aren't that funny. So he talked about a small town in Illinois where the treasurer got up and reported that they had a deficit of $1,000. And one of the members stood up and said, I move that we donate half of it to the Red Cross and $250 to the Salvation Army. It's a math joke. I think that was Dixon, Illinois. But, all right. Now, sorry. So anyway, back to meeting John Quigley. You know, the guy's everywhere. I used to think there was maybe twins, 1 or 2 John Quigleys, particularly when I remember seeing him in the Memorial Day parade. I'm on the sideline. John Quigley goes by at the chamber board. Hey, how you doing? A little while later, he comes by with the Lions, you know, his very prestigious organization. I know that, John. I know that. But what you don't know is that there's an Indian origin for the word Kiwanis. John, do you know what that is?
Yes, Indian.
To make oneself known. I think you joined the right club. And that's not a joke. That's exactly what it means. John has made himself known. But, then he came through a third time in the parade with some other group, and I was thinking, gee, this guy is really self-promoting in a strange way, but what better could you do than get to be the MC then also for the St. Patrick's Day parade? Because you get to talk all the time. Now, it's broadcast on Comcast, so you can actually watch the show. And I contacted Comcast. They said it's a very, very highly viewed event, although 90% of the views come from one house in Villa Park. But whatever, maybe someone over there really likes the program. So fast forward a little bit, I'm on the board with John Quigley, and this is really where I got to know him. And at that time, Elm Fest was the big fundraiser. And it paid to be friends with John. I think there are a few here in the room who know this, because instead of cleaning up the day after like Barb Savage had to do, you're working the beer tent. That's where all the action is. And eventually, I became chairman of the board there, and I learned that the chairman's job, in part, is to take significant abuse from the president of the chamber, John Quigley. Maybe it's in the job description. But then, your last year, when you're the chairman emeritus or immediate past chair, you're allowed to give it back to John. And this DSA award, my last shot, so thanks, John. Now, I spent many hours in committee meetings and board meetings and business alliance meetings with John, and I can tell you, he has a reputation for being a bit talkative. Now, I know this comes as a surprise to many of you, but I know John went to a Catholic school. I imagine he had a lot of bruised knuckles from his behavior in school, even though I didn't know him. He's the kind of guy that can cover 15 minutes worth of material in about an hour. Now, everyone knows John, and he's not a speaker that needs an introduction, but he does need a conclusion. Say it so, John. I think, I venture to say we're the only chamber of commerce that has actually experienced a filibuster during a board meeting. These are political jokes. I'm glad you guys are up on all these politics. Now, one of the things John did is he led us into social media through the chamber. So if you're a chamber member, you can use, this is a commercial for the chamber, you can use the chamber's website to link your own. He took us into Facebook. He took us into LinkedIn. But the only one that really caused him a struggle was Twitter. I mean, the idea of communicating in 120 characters just about gave John a nervous breakdown. Couldn't be done. Now, I'm on the city council now, and I see John appear before the committees. He advocates many things for the chamber and on behalf of the city programs. His affinity for talking is well known there, too. About a month ago, we had a new program, and you'll see it in the paper, Electrical Aggregation. It talks about renewable energy credits, which really means wind power. And the problem with wind power is it can't be sustained. The wind doesn't always blow. And someone said, well, we do have a sustainable source of wind in Elmhurst. If only we could harness it. But can't harness it. But there's potential. So we'll go with the credits now. Maybe my speech is running a bit long, John? So,
2 minutes.
Yeah, now you know how it feels. All right. John has used his role as Chamber of Commerce chair as his bully pulpit to get a lot of things done around town. He'll come and speak about what's good for the city, what's good for the schools. A number of times he's appeared before us, and he's been a strong advocate of tax increases that benefit the school and the city government. He's a guy who seems like he's willing to pay for the services he gets. But wait a minute, John, you don't live in town, do you? Well, still a great advocate nonetheless. There was an article in the Elmhurst Independent a couple weeks ago. What? I just happened to have it with me. Very interesting article, and I won't go through all the wonderful accomplishments that you've done, John, because they're all right here in this article written by D. Longfellow. Doesn't it really help to have the newspaper editor on your board of directors, John? Yeah. Doesn't hurt at all. Well, the article highlighted a lot of the personal side of John Quigley. He talks about his love for baseball, and for those of you who know him, he bowls. Baseball's a big event. Anyone who knows John knows how much he loves baseball and how good he is, and if you don't know how good he is, he'll tell you. He prides himself that he snuck into the 55 and under age bracket. playing with the young guys, that's good. He takes off all over the country to play baseball. He went to Arizona once year, maybe it was Las Vegas. And when asked to name one of his life heroes, I think he put Peter Pan at the top of the list. Don't go growing up on us, John. Don't grow up on us. You just keep having a good time. Well, we've highlighted some of John's service, the Chamber, the Jaycees, the Memorial Day Parade, the St. Patrick's Parade, the Business Alliance, all the things the mayor mentioned, auctioneer. I got to say that's extraordinary when a guy like John Quigley looks into the crowd and calls you out by name. You know you're either going to make a bid or you're going to increase your bid. Calls out your wife by name, so you really got to duck when he does that. No one cares more about this town, I don't believe, than John Quigley. I actually believe he would literally bleed green. We're not going to find out tonight. He's been the recipient of many awards. I think Duke of Elmhurst is one of his pride awards. This will be another one I think that will be of great pride to him. It's always better to look back at your life and know that you had more awards than wives. You know what I'm saying, John? It's a roast. It's a roast. But we could turn it around, like the time someone came into the chamber office and said, is there a criminal attorney in town? And you said, yes, but we can't prove it yet. So, what were those 5 words, John? Those 5 words, and everyone will agree: intelligent, funny, community servant, leader, friend. And I congratulate you, my friend. You have distinguished yourself in a very proud way. I raise my glass of Mountain Dew to you.
So according to Scott Levin, John engages everyone he meets with. Well, thankfully, only 3 have married him. Next, we have a certificate of service from Illinois State Senator Kirk Dillard, read to you by Elmhurst Jaycee Tom Skibby. Thank you.
The Illinois Senate of the 97th General Assembly of the State of Illinois acknowledges that John R. Quigley, in recognition of receiving the 61st Distinguished Service Award from the Elmhurst Jaycees for his decades of community service, and joins in the commemoration of the effort, dedication, and hard work that led to receiving this honor, and further commends him for the continued commitment to serving the community. Senator Kirk Dillard.
Thank you very much, Tom. Next, something that's not on your program, something that I like to call a double secret presentation. We have Scott Algrim here to read something. If you would please welcome Scott Algrim.
You know, and I left my tape measure at home. Well, I'm here actually for Rich Reichert. Rich, unfortunately, was not able to be here tonight, and he did want to share in this special evening. So instead of him being here in person, he has given me a letter that he would like to have read this evening just for John. Dear Elmhurst Jaycees, distinguished guests, and John, I am very sorry I am unable to attend your Distinguished Service Award dinner. As much as I would like to join you in honoring this year's Elmhurst Jaycees DSA recipient, Wednesday evenings are reserved for sweeping my sidewalks. When John asked me to speak on behalf of this year's DSA recipient, I was at first flattered. I couldn't wait. This would be fun. What an honor. Maybe I'll get a free dinner out of this. Who was this year's honoree, I wondered. It's probably somebody pretty important. A former public servant? A local humanitarian? Who could it be? John told me he was the honoree. Oh. When's the dinner? I immediately informed him about my ritual Wednesday night sidewalk sweeping. Of course, he understood. He'd been up all night calling each and every person ever associated with the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and he was up to the R's. He was hungry, he was tired, but he understood. I offered to write a letter to be read aloud on his special night, and he accepted. There's an hour out of my life I won't get back. My mother always says, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Here are the top 10 things I have come to appreciate about John. Number 10, I look somewhat handsome standing next to John. Number 9, his Jeep Grand Cherokee is sweet. Number 8, John does not require a megaphone while leading Occupy Elmhurst events. Number 7, he is very unique looking. Number 6, John has helped companies that manufacture big hats stay in business. Number 5, he still has enough hair to dye should he choose. And he should. Number 4, the celebrant at John's wedding is one of my favorite people. Number 3, he lets me beat him at golf every time. Number 2, John has a wonderful wife who most refer to as Saint Annie. And the number one thing I've come to appreciate about John is that he employed Barb Savage just long enough until Community Bank was in a position to be able to steal her away. Now, you all know how fond I am of John. I trust you understand the importance of clean sidewalks and why I am unable to join you. For the sake of the Elmhurst Jaycees, I hope the attendance at this event is large, despite tonight's honoree. But John, regardless of my personal feelings about you, I wish you all the best on your special night. And I have one final word for you, John. You know it well. Gunga Galunga. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this word, loosely translated from the ancient Tibetan, it means, when you die, on your deathbed, you will receive total consciousness. So you have that going for you, John, which is nice. Sincerely, Rich Reichert.
Thank you very much. In 2006, we awarded the DSA to Larry Fricke. He asked John to speak on his behalf along with many other DSA recipients. But in 2006, when I introduced John, I stated that John is notorious for skewering the DSA recipients who have asked him to speak on their behalf. Have you noticed that no DSA recipients has he asked to speak on his behalf? Except for Ken Bartels, who nominated him. So let's see what Ken has to say about our fine recipients. Please welcome Ken Bartels, Senior VP and Director of Community Bank of Elmhurst.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you to the Elmhurst Jaycees for finally succumbing to the pressure and letting just anybody get the DSA. Now that there's no standards, it'll be easier to pick someone every year. Nonetheless, I'm here to honor my friend John Quigley on this momentous night in his life. And I also recognize that it's only me and one other person that stand between you and hearing John speak, so I will talk as long as I can, and you can thank me later. When John was just 5 years old, he got lost in the YMCA, and he found himself in the women's locker room. When he was spotted, all the ladies started scrambling and covering up and shrieking and what have you, and John was looking on in amazement and finally said, "What's the matter? Haven't you ever seen a 5-year-old boy before?" I will fast forward through John's years at Immaculate Conception, because that's what they would want me to do and wish that he had. To his undergraduate time at Elmhurst College. Now, I was there a long time, but John was gone before I was, although he remained on the minds of many there. Some years later, I proposed hiring John at Elmhurst College, and my boss at the time gave me an odd look, a thumbs down, took a roll of Tums, and we just moved on after that. The first time I actually met John, though, was at an Elmhurst homecoming, the first one I'd ever been to. There he was, John being John, candid and loud, opinionated and loud, full of stories about himself and loud, enjoying a beverage and loud, obviously talented and engaging, but loud. In other words, completely obnoxious. Yet we formed a friendship, much like Han and Luke, or Starsky and Hutch, or Gibbs and Donoso, or perhaps even Laurel and Hardy. But a few years later, when I again proposed John for a job to the same boss, he was hired. Now, I had to give up all my living children, my fortune, such as it was, my golf game, you wondered where it went, and basically everything else, including the color of my hair, of what there was. Then, however, we worked for many years in promotions, in broadcasting, and fundraising, and related endeavors, and there seemed to be no end to our efforts until the opening at the Chamber occurred. Now, I strolled John down to John's office, and I knocked on the door, and I said, "Now, John, don't take this wrong, but you should really look at that Chamber job." And John, sharp as a tack, immediately applied. And of course, he was hired, and so the story goes. I still remember my endorsement letter, however, which included the phrases, "You will be lucky if you can get him to work for you." And I cannot recommend him too highly. Later, many Elm Fests, which I greatly miss, many meetings which continue to this day, many discussions, many ideas, many joint ventures, all with John, or simply a continuation of obnoxious. And have I mentioned loud? Now, I decided not to comment on John's matrimonial adventures, but I will say, for a man who has, according to him, never struck out, he was on strike two before he met Annie. And even then, however, their marriage cost John a basement and me an automobile, but that's a different story. Recently, as John was getting ready for a charity event and donning his tuxedo, Annie was heard to say, "John, you know that wearing that tux always gives you a headache the next morning." Now, John, thank you. It's a roast, right? Now, John asked for a roast this evening, and Scott and I have tried to accommodate that, but to do that exclusively would simply do a disservice to John and to the long history of the DSA. So please know these things about John Quigley. He is fearless, and he is dedicated. He's a powerfully multi-talented man. He is loyal. He's someone you want in your corner. He's intense. He is respected. He is a very hard worker. He can move the sticks, handle the ball, get a good jump, make an outlet pass, hit to the opposite field, and he will take one for the team. He is my friend, and I am very glad of it. But back to the very beginning. John had just finished his very first week in school. I'm just wasting my time, he told his mother. I can't read, I can't write, and they won't even let me talk. Congratulations, John.
Thank you very much, Ken. Now, while planning this event, I actually talked to John, and he said, you know, I'm the one that actually has the hardest speech to write. I have to go off of what Ken says and Scott says and what you say. So therefore, I decided to give my roast last so that you have very little time with which to think to respond. So ladies and gentlemen, I have with me my top 10 list, AKA David Letterman style. Top 10 list of things regarding John Quigley. Number 10, the number of bowling pins that John will never knock down all at once again due to the new plastic lanes. Number 9, the number of red dye recommended by John's hairstylist to cover all that gray. Number 8, the number of Elm Fests John says he has successfully run. That's why we don't have it anymore. So, 7, for those that are forced to attend meetings with John, 7 years until he retires, everyone. 7, count them. Number 6, number of times a new Blue Jay mascot suit had to be ordered after John wore one. Fumigation, extermination, molting feathers, I don't even remember all the reasons. 5, number of times per night John is referred to at Max Golden Pheasant as the mayor. And he never, ever denies it. 4, what the rest of his golf foursome yells. 3, the number of days it will take him to drink all of the Mountain Dew on your tables. Thank goodness no meetings are coming up, right, Scott? 2, cats. 2, black labs. 2, ex-wives. That's all. And 1, the number of times I've had to stand next to him at a wedding. Thankfully, just once. But John, in all seriousness, I am very, very proud that you have been a mentor. I was proud to stand next to you in your wedding to the lovely Anne. Those tears were real. You're welcome for the teardrops. And I'm very proud to call you a friend. You gave me a lot of confidence, and you also taught me how to write these press releases for something the Jaycees do called the Distinguished Service Award or something. But it was very, very valuable advice, and I really hope that we continue our friendship after this banquet. Lastly, John, you are welcome for putting your face on more women's chests tonight with those name badges than you could ever dream of. You are welcome. And to present John with this award, I would like to present Jason Janes, our fearless president of the Elmhurst Jaycees. Please welcome him.
This is what has come today of John's illustrious career. This group, I'm sorry, John, we've let you down. Look at these people. Look at these people. Now, let me set a couple things straight this evening. I don't have glasses on, so if I miss a couple things reading, you'll have to edit them out. I have on high list of items to correct today. When we say we're roasting someone and the camera pans, I want to make sure there's no confusion. When they say Bill Gooch in the photo, that's a golf tan. We're roasting John Quigley. So for the folks on Comcast, it's John Quigley's night, not Bill's. Bill, good luck with golf. Now, there are some rumors that are going about that Julie and Pat have been offered an extra boat slip or something to that effect to have John have this award tonight. And I'm not saying I'm going up to their vacation home on Memorial Day weekend with a new boat, but I'll just say that John's earned this award. So the other thing I have to just correct, Scott had offered in his remarks that viewing has never been higher of the St. Patrick's Day broadcast. I spoke to Jeannie Urich, and she's able to confirm that almost 100% of the views occur with the TV on mute. So John, I don't know if you fumble through the entire speech, but you probably don't even have to announce the acts. They mute them. So I don't think you need to be as loud as you are, because they mute them. Try that later. So we've talked about him growing up, YMCA. I actually spoke to longtime chamber volunteer Jerry Sletton and his wife June, who are here today, and they were able to share some stories as well. They said, John, he would come to the house when he was just a young boy, grew up just around the corner, and always you need a little guidance, and to their opinion now, he's turned out all right. And I said, that's okay. And they told me a story of he'd come by with a full diaper when Jerry started his service, and he would change the diaper like a good volunteer does, and he'd say, John, now it's time to go back to college. So, to those folks that are here representing Elmhurst College, we thank you for raising the standards. Since John and Pete were able to be there, the great institution that it is. One of the things that has been glossed over a little too much is his baseball game. I think it's probably somewhere between 80 and 90% of his free time, which he doesn't have much of. But if you want to hear a great baseball story, I've got it here. I had the misfortune of overhearing at one of his games what seemed like some sad rendition of Abbott and Costello's "Who's on First." It was the coach saying, "All right, guys, we're going to go get him tonight. So who's on first?" John offers, "Coach." And no, Anderson, you go on first. And all right, well, how about second? No, John, not second either. And so that went on for a long, long time that evening. Needless to say, not as long as this evening will conclude with John. The big component that I'm encouraged about is that after the beating Scott and Ken gave you today, that you can go home to a lovely wife who's a masseuse, and she could make it all better. And as Scott said, I've had the privilege of working with you at the chamber, and I wasn't supposed to roast you much, but I wanted to get a couple digs in, just in case you had any coming my way. The Jaycees have a long relationship with working with the Chamber of Commerce through the JC Carnival, as well as relying on the Chamber and John specifically for his mentorship and guidance as we develop young people ages 21 through 40 for the service to themselves, their families, and their businesses. And at 40, you go amongst the rest of the world and join other organizations, but at 40, you rooster out from the Jaycees. And this award is the 61st. And so we're very excited to have John here today and to give him this award. So with no further ado, I would offer John Quigley to please come up and join the rest of your past DSA recipients here at the front of the stage. The folks that are coming up are all past recipients. Not all 60 are here this evening.
Gosh, I'm young.
His award reads, Elmhurst Jaycees Distinguished Service Award, presented to John R. Quigley, in recognition of your selfless commitment to time, unwavering dedication, and leadership to the Elmhurst community. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jason. Well, really, thank you for that lukewarm applause. And even lucre and warmer laughter. I appreciate that. See you guys. Figures the two guys who didn't pay for a meal leave first. Wow. I'd like to thank the members of the Elmhurst Jaycees for their belief that I am worthy of such recognition. The list of 60 previous recipients reads like a who's who in Elmhurst over the past 6 decades, a number of whom are in this room tonight. You just got to see them standing up here, and I would ask you to give them all a great round of applause. Good. Now remember that when I ask for your applause later. I've been fortunate enough to speak on behalf of a half dozen of the honorees since 2001. And it's a strange position to be here speaking about myself. It's really easy to pay tribute to somebody who I think is deserving, and it's really hard for me to stand up here and actually think I'm deserving. So I'll fake it and pretend I am and move forward. I first became familiar with the Jaycees when I returned to Elmhurst College in 1991 to serve as the Associate Director of Communications. The Jaycees had just raised their age restriction from 30 to 35, and they recruited me hard. But alas, I was now 36. Undaunted, the Jaycees spent years getting the age limit pushed back to 40, only to learn the mathematical truth that 36 plus 5 equals 41. Oh, so close to getting me. I told the Jaycees thanks for trying and moved on to the Kiwanis Club of Elmhurst, where, thank you, my Kiwanians, where the new 44-year-old president of the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry could actually be a young pup again. More on that later. In particular, I want to single out DSA Chair Julie Miller for her leadership and hard work in putting together this evening's festivities. Give Julie a nice round of applause. Julie and I first met at Elmhurst College when she was just a snot-nosed volleyball player fresh out of a farmland high school from downstate Illinois. After a good rhinoplasty surgeon fixed her runny nose, Julie followed me to the chamber as one of my first Job Path program student interns, establishing a work ethic standard few have matched in the 12 years since then. Julie is one of 4 former student interns to serve on the Chamber's Board of Directors and is second vice chair of the Executive Committee and chair of the Membership Committee. Even as a student, Julie was often opinionated and outspoken about her internship duties, except on Friday mornings, preceded by a Thursday night happy hour. It did not take long for Patrick Sheehan to recognize Julie's organizational skills, so he quickly hired her away to manage his law office, and the rest, as they say, is history. That wasn't worth applauding. As far as my presenters this evening goes, my heartfelt thanks to Ken Bartels, the 2007 DSA honoree, and Scott Levin for their unique recipes in cooking up tonight's hearty roast. These most dignified proceedings required that presentations be given by two very pompous and sanctimonious individuals who, by their mere presence alone, would make this honoree appear more humble and lovable. And as far as Rich Reichert, he's a heck of a lot funnier in print than he is in person, isn't he? If I would have known he was that funny, I would have had him write in the vows to our wedding. Ken and I first met through Elmhurst College almost 30 years ago, and we've been friends ever since. Ken recruited me to the Epiphany Lutheran Church Men's Bowling League some 20 years ago, and we've golfed a number of rounds together, and he even served as best man at my wedding. While many of you know Ken hired me at Elmhurst College in 1991, he mentioned today, and few of you probably knew it, that he did not hire me a couple of years earlier when there was an opportunity to do so. How many people do you know that have the ability to unbiasedly reconsider a candidate after they initially rejected them? A little bit funny, but it's an amazing trait. Ken got me involved in the Elmhurst Chamber, both as a director and a green-coated ambassador. And after my chamber predecessor, A.J. Tachi-Toronas, passed away, Ken encouraged me to apply for the job. By encourage, I mean when your boss walks into the office, shuts the door, sits down in front of you and says, "I think you ought to try for that chamber thing. I think it's time to change jobs." No? I was quick enough to pick up on that. One of the most valuable lessons I learned from Ken is to surround yourself with the best people possible, even if you view yourself, in the end, as the least talented among the group. A rising tide, as you all know, raises all ships. The only drawback to that philosophy is that those good people often get hired away. And I can tell you during my years at the Chamber, I have lost some pretty good people. Give them a nice round of applause. Now, Scott and I met when he joined the Chamber back in 2003, and I knew back then that he'd make his impact felt. Most attorneys try and make their impact felt. Scott served 2 terms as a Chamber director and chaired the board in 2009 and 10. Now, here's an example of how Scott even expanded from there. He made a run for mayor in a 4-person race. He didn't win. Then the guy who got elected, who, by the way, is sitting next to him right now, asked him to co-chair a financial task force with 2001 DSA recipient Kevin Diamond. And Scott's response was, "Yeah, I'll do that." That's an amazing trait. Give him a nice round of applause. And then he was appointed to fill a vacancy and then got himself elected as a city alderman. And he is a great asset to this city. Ken, Scott, I thank you tremendously for your presentations today. By the way, if he leaves, you can then take over that mayor's spot. If that county gig thing works out. No. I said if it works out, and we're hoping it does. I also like to give special thanks to my wife, Annie, for delivering tonight's invocation, and for my stepson, Mike, for joining us this evening. Yeah, go ahead, give him a nice round of applause. By the way, Mike, it's garbage night. Make sure the stuff gets out. Annie campaigned long and hard to actually be my third presenter, but Julie and I remained resolved in our belief that that would be an inappropriate break from tradition. At least in recent times, no DSA honoree has chosen their spouse to be a guest speaker. I told Annie that, hey, had I won the award in the 1980s or the 1990s, neither my first wife nor my second wife would have been asked to present on my behalf. Now, much to my surprise, Annie didn't accept that information in the spirit in which it was given. Actually, when I proposed to Annie on the stage during the opening ceremonies of Elmfest, I stated that no person could hope to accomplish all that I have without having the kind of love and support that she gives me on a daily basis. And that remains true to this day. I love you. Of course, I had no idea at the time that my proposal would signal the death knell for Elmfest. That our wedding day would bring stormwater flooding across Chicagoland that not only destroyed my lower level of the home, but claimed the automobiles of my best man and Annie's mother. And that Mexicana Airlines went out of business immediately following our honeymoon return from Puerto Vallarta. Take that as you will. It's a sign. I don't know if it's from up there or from down there, but it's a sign. Let me briefly give you my philosophy of life. I couldn't tell if you were laughing on briefly or my philosophy of life. Okay, let me straighten this up. It won't be brief. It'll just be my philosophy of life. And it's to have a passion for whatever it is I'm going to do. If my passion wanes, I stop doing it, and I move on to something new. By my early 20s, I had lost both my parents, my grandparents, a brother, and a best friend to cancer, heart disease, and other fatal illnesses. I realized then that among the no guarantees in life was my time spent on this earth. So whether it's work or play, I strive to find enjoyment in what I do every day. Let me tell you a little bit about my family. My family is of Italian, Irish, and German descent, which of course means I eat, drink, and fight wars I have no chance of winning. It'll still be funny tomorrow morning, too. While my father was Irish and German, I was raised Italian from my mother's side. If nobody believes Mayor Marcucci and DC Annie have an Irish lineage, who will believe a red-haired, freckled-faced Quigley is really a paisan? I'd like to recognize my sisters Trudy and Janet for being here tonight. Along with my Aunt Elaine, who was married to one of my mother's brothers. Thank you for being here. My father died when I was 4 years old, so my mother did her best to fill his paternal shoes, and Trudy, unfortunately for her, inherited the role of surrogate mother, which was not an easy job given my mischievous and strong-willed nature. I could sit at a dinner table for hours with a smile on my face, refusing to eat liver. Feel free to go to bed. I'm still not eating it. If I ever wanted to get Trudy's goat, I simply call her Gert, as she was named after our paternal grandmother, Gertrude. How she survived me, I'll never know. Trudy also is to blame for my domestic compulsions for house cleaning, doing laundry, cooking, you name it.
I helped Trudy.
Yes. Unfortunately, so did my other two wives. In my single years, my dates were convinced that I hired a maid or had a cleaning service. My apartment or my house was just that spotless. Try being a neatnik now in a house where your wife brings home loads of laundry daily from her massage therapy business. Your stepson often stockpiles food and dirty dishes in his bedroom. And all 4 of your rescued pets consider every piece of furniture and clothing in the household to be available as their own personal playgrounds. Janet and I were the closest in age and have enjoyed a healthy cat and dog relationship. Janet just celebrated her 60th birthday, which officially makes her 4 years older than me. She's 60, I'm 56. That's 4 years. To this day, Janet refers to me as her little brother, even in conversations with her friends and coworkers, and they all go, "Oh, really? How old's your little brother?" "Oh, he's mid-50s. Yeah. While I majored in needing stitches, Janet mastered in broken bones. She was always in a cast. Janet even spent her junior year of college in France, I think, just to study the art of plaster of Paris. Well, at least you got it. As the youngest of 7 children, I know that I had advantages that my siblings did not. But to be blunt, I deserved them. I turned out to be the most successful, the best educated, the most athletic, and frankly, the best looking of the bunch. Also, at 5'10", I tower over my siblings. Only self-modesty and cable TV time constraints curbed me from expounding on my many other qualities. Growing up the run of the litter in a fatherless household had its challenges, to be sure, but eventually I developed an independence and self-confidence that, to this day, defines me in so many ways. That bravado, if you will, stands out as both my greatest personal asset and at times my most glaring character flaw. While there were older kids on my block, I stepped into the role of community organizer, staging backyard carnivals to raise money to spend on candy, model toys, you name it. 459 Washington Street served as my headquarters and base of operations. Basketball and kick the can in the front yard, football in the backyard, basketball and hockey on the driveway, get-togethers in the basement, monkey business behind the garage. As far as my education goes, my formal education began at Hawthorne Elementary School, where I learned to write my name in a kindergarten class of line paper printers. That learning curve gap, along with the compulsory nap time, hastened my matriculation from public to private school. During my 12 years at Immaculate Conception, I often took out my fashion frustration of wearing brown and blue uniforms with clip-on bow ties by pranking any nun, priest, or lay teacher who could be had. I regularly questioned authority, and back then, classroom teachers typically doled out reprimands via paddle to the backside or ruler to the knuckles. Yeah, that wasn't that funny back then. If given the option, though, I regularly chose to get paddled rather than a phone call home to my mother. My report cards, as personally read and then presented by Monsignor Plunkett, often included the following teacher comment: "John has no problem communicating in class, even when not asked." While at Immaculate Conception High School, I continued my career training by writing for the student newspaper, public address announcing at basketball and football games, and staging revenue-producing dances while serving as treasurer of the student council. After 13 years of schooling along Cottage Hill, I decided that I really needed to get away for college. So I walked across Wilder Park and enrolled at Elmhurst College. Aside from earning a double major in business administration and public speaking, I enhanced my educational experience by managing the student radio station, being sports editor of the student newspaper, and serving on the student governing union board. In terms of my work history and employment, I've been blessed in that I've never worked a job that I didn't enjoy. And every time I left the job, it was to take on a new challenge or for a better opportunity. not because my passion waned. And I think too few people can say that in their lives. My first real job was as a maintenance engineer at Immaculate Conception High School, where I worked myself up to be crew chief. Let me tell you this, the toughest job I ever had was cleaning out a high school girls' restroom. After graduating from Elmhurst College, I worked for a number of suburban newspaper chains that ultimately were forced to close their doors or sell their assets not long after I took my National Newspaper Association award-winning skills to the next publication. Now that I think about it, the nationwide decline in the newspaper business pretty much coincides with my departure from the profession some 20 years ago. Really, you can look it up. Ironically, I then spent 9 years at Elmhurst College, liaisoning with all the same media types who had driven me out of the newspaper business to begin with. I first got involved with the Chamber of Commerce while working in Portage, Indiana in the late 1980s, serving as the Porter County editor of the Maryville-based newspaper group called the Herald Newspaper Group, not to be confused with the Herald out here. By the way, they're out of business too. On my community service side, most of my life, I've been fortunate enough to participate in events, programs, and activities offered through my schools, service clubs, community organizations, the Chamber, the City of Elmhurst, Elmhurst Park District, Elmhurst YMCA, Elmhurst Public Library, and so many other entities. So I feel an obligation to repay my debt with my support. In some cases, I give my time. In some cases, I give my money. In some cases, I give both. In some cases, they just ask me to go away. I have been a member of the Kiwanis Club since 1991. Applause. And am currently serving my second term as president this year. When I became a Kiwanian, our club actually had 5 members who joined Kiwanis before I was born. Talk about distinguished service. On May 12th, our club's 59th annual Kiwanis Pancake Day and Mother's Day flower sale, co-chaired by my wife Annie and Frank Catalano Sr., raised funds towards our $30,000 gift to the neonatal facilities at Elmhurst Memorial Hospital. I also am president of the Elmhurst College Blue Jay Backer Executive Committee, on which I have served for more than 20 years. Our 30th annual golf outing is coming up on June 12th at Bloomingdale Golf Course. Feel free to sign up for that. It wasn't worth applauding. But I think that was Paul Crone, actually. I have been blessed to have many mentors and collaborators in my life. My mother, siblings, and relatives, teachers up every step of my educational ladder, bosses and coworkers at each employment level, coaches and teammates across multiple sports and numerous age groups. Do they even know? I sure hope so. How do you thank them? I'm at a loss. All I can say for sure is I wouldn't be on this dais tonight without their influences. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Diplomat West, for that coffee on our tables. And just one response in my defense. Has anyone been to Fitz's on a Thursday night? It is a rockin' good time. Fridays at work, psh, Well, as always in this great community, many people could not be here because of other commitments. John, are you that short? You have to move this down. So unfortunately, some people could not be here, but they have specifically told me they have sent notes or cards to John and roasted him on their own. So everyone, any chance you get, please feel free to do that to John, whether in public or in private. He would appreciate it. I do again encourage everyone to take the flowers that were graciously donated by the Kiwanis Club of Elmhurst. And if you know anyone between the ages of 21 and 40 and you think they would be a great leader, I encourage you to encourage them to attend a JC meeting. We are a leadership organization, and I think that as many former JCs in this room and former DSA recipients will tell you, it is a great start. So please feel free to help them further their career. And lastly, I would like to thank all of our speakers, all of our attendees, our mayors, everyone that could ever say anything about John that he would appreciate, or roast him in that manner. So to end the program, I quote Carl from Caddyshack as he prepares to dynamite all of the Gopher tunnels. In the immortal words of John Paul Sartre, au revoir, Gopher. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Congratulations again, John.
We live in some of the best communities in Illinois. We care about our neighbors. We work hard to preserve our quality of life. But there's something we forget about in Elmhurst. A river runs through it, and it's up to us to protect it. Our storm drains flow to Salt Creek, and that means our harmful waste does too. So try using fewer chemicals on your lawn. Avoid leaking fluids from cars. And grow native flowers and plants to absorb more rainwater. Don't muddy the waters. Do your part to clean up Salt Creek.
Hi, I'm John Quigley, President and CEO of the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry. In these challenging economic times, it's imperative that our residents and businesses band together to not only shop Elmhurst, but buy Elmhurst whenever possible. We have great stores in our city center, Spring Road, Butterfield Road, York and Villette Streets, St. Charles and Route 83, North Avenue and Lake Street, along North York and even Grand Avenue. I ask for your help. Let's keep our tax dollars in Elmhurst.
This is no place for the Tour de France, and this is no place for NASCAR. But in everyday life, bicycles and cars do share the road. I'm Robbie Ventura. I spent 4 years riding with Lance Armstrong and the U.S. Postal Team. I've coached hundreds of cyclists who compete around the world, and I can tell you it's no accident when everyone gets where they're going safely. The key is to know the rules of the road. For example, cyclists have a right to be on the street, and people in cars have an obligation to watch out for them. Often the road is the only way for people on bikes to get where they're going, and some sidewalks are even more dangerous than streets. Finally, some communities allow kids to ride on the sidewalk, but it may be illegal for adults. When cyclists are on the road, they're supposed to obey all traffic laws, signs, and signals, always riding in the same direction as cars in their lane. Some cyclists feel safer riding against traffic where they can see oncoming cars, but that's actually more dangerous because cars have less time to slow down and go around them. People on bikes should also ride predictably and signal so drivers know what they're planning to do. Cyclists turning right may do this, or this. Here's what a left turn signal looks like, and if you see this, expect the cyclist to slow down or stop. Whether you're riding or driving, it's also important to know your place on the road. Bicycles should stay as far to the right as practical, but they may have to ride farther out into the lane if there's broken glass, rocks, and other debris by the curb or on the shoulder. People on bikes also ride farther into the lane on narrow roads to keep cars from passing too closely, or they might be moving across the lane getting ready to turn left. Like drivers, cyclists are supposed to use designated lanes if they're planning to turn. Whether you're in a car or on a bike, you should also use extra caution in key situations or danger zones. Take passing, for example. When going around a cyclist, a driver should allow at least 3 feet between the vehicle and the bike. More is better, especially for a cyclist going up a hill or on a high-speed road where fast-moving vehicles can generate strong air currents. On a narrow road, you might have to move into the next lane to pass safely, and that can mean waiting a few seconds for oncoming traffic to clear. Be patient. Turning can also put you in a danger zone. Say you're in a car planning to make a right turn, but there's a cyclist to your right or riding behind you. People are often tempted to speed up, get ahead of the bike, and make that turn, but doing so could cause a crash. If there's any chance you're going to block the path of a bike on the road or a parallel bike path, wait for the cyclist to pass before turning. How much time do you lose by slowing down and playing it safe? As you can see, it's only a matter of seconds. And when you're turning or changing lanes, don't forget about your blind spots. After checking your mirrors, always look quickly to your right or left. Another major risk is a car turning left into the path of an oncoming bike. In these situations, drivers may misjudge the speed and distance of cyclists or fail to see them. Bikes are smaller than cars, so they're harder to see and may appear further away. But some could be moving pretty fast, 20 or even 30 miles an hour. And if the cyclist is going straight, he has the right of way. Bike paths or sidewalks that run parallel with the road may seem like fairly safe places, but these too can be danger zones. A driver making a turn might be focused on the road and not see a cyclist traveling on the sidewalk or path until the last minute. Someone riding on a sidewalk or path in the opposite direction of a driver is even less likely to be seen. So in these situations, drivers should be extra careful, checking the sidewalk or path for cyclists or pedestrians. People on bikes should ride defensively. Watch for motorists making a turn and be prepared to stop. Another danger zone involves driveways or alleys. Drivers and cyclists often cruise right into the street, pulling out of a driveway or alley, looking for cars in the middle of the lane, but not for bikes or pedestrians on the sidewalk or on the right side of the road. And if you're only looking to your left for oncoming traffic, you won't see a cyclist coming from the other direction. You have to remind yourself every time to take it slow and look both ways before entering the road. Cyclists riding along parked cars are in another danger zone because drivers and passengers sometimes open doors. This happens so often, cyclists actually have a name for it, being doored. So if you're getting out of a parked car, always look over your shoulder to make sure no cyclists are coming. And cyclists may want to ride farther into the lane. One final danger zone is right behind the wheel or handlebars.
You're blocking the road. I'm trying to get by here. You have to give me room. You have to wait a second.
When you're on the road, conflicts can occur, and it's tempting to express yourself. But getting angry, hostile, or abusive doesn't help. And it can take you to places you never intended to go. Aggressive behavior can lead to criminal charges. Revving your engine, blasting your horn, yelling, or pounding on a vehicle can result in legal action against drivers or cyclists. The best advice for anyone on the road is to stay calm, exercise caution, be patient and courteous. Share the road, show respect, and always be on the alert, especially in those danger zones. When passing a cyclist, leave at least 3 feet between car and bicycle. More is better. Be patient when passing and when turning right. If there's any chance you'll block a bike in your lane, on the sidewalk or side path, slow down and wait for the cyclist to pass. If you're making a left, remember that oncoming cars and bikes have the right of way, and that bicycles may be moving faster than you think. Don't forget to check your blind spots and to signal whenever passing or turning. Be especially careful when leaving a driveway or alley. Check the street and sidewalk in both directions for cars, cyclists, and pedestrians. And look for bikes before getting out of a car that's parked in the street. Finally, keep in mind that you're not in a race where NASCAR meets the Tour de France. When you share the road, the reward is everyone gets where they're going safely.